Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Moving Markets podcast. Right now, at the time I'm recording this, it is Thursday, June 26th, and you might be asking yourself, didn't we already do this? It is the evening of Thursday, June the 26th, and I am recording this right now because of a conflict I have tomorrow morning that is going to prevent me from being online in the morning as I would normally like to. And I don't mind telling you, we got word from some people coming to install carpet tomorrow. You know how oftentimes you have contractors to let you know 1 or 2 days ahead what window of time they are going to show up at your house. So we've got people showing up tomorrow right at the time I normally do the podcast. And I've got a little bit of prep work to do for them before they arrive. So I'm doing this tonight, but this is in lieu of a live presentation tomorrow morning. So I'm going to be talking about, even though we haven't gotten to Friday the 27th yet, I'm going to be talking a little bit about Friday, kind of in terms of what to expect. Now, obviously, I don't have the advantage of the market being open and trading right now. As of 9:40 Eastern time, Dow futures are up, S&P futures pretty flat. That's technically speaking up, but it's awfully flat. NASDAQ futures, technically speaking, up a little bit, but that's awfully flat. 1/100%. But for all intents and purposes, let's say that it's flat. And that's I don't think that should come as a surprise to everyone. The markets, all three indexes had a good day today. They all three finished up very nicely. The S&P is closing in very, very close to touching a new all-time high. I don't think the NASDAQ or the Dow are quite as close to new all-time highs. But I think, all three of these indexes, the Dow's got a little ways to go. The NASDAQ is certainly at a year high. The Dow's got a little ways to go since it got up to its all-time high in January or early part of February. So I think, barring something very unexpected, barring something that is just one of those, it would almost have to be a little bit of a black swan event. I think there is optimism in the markets and in the economy generally that are going to push things up to these highs. I think you're going to see, just based on the feeling that is going on right now, the sense of progress being made on trade deals, progress being made on peace in the Middle East. It's all still tenuous. It's all still kind of hanging in the balance, and we don't want to be. It's kind of hard to want to be overly optimistic. I don't know if you're like me at all. You have this sense of, boy, I really hope this all holds together. I really want it to all hold together, but I'm almost kind of holding my breath thinking, oh, what if it doesn't? Or, maybe even thinking to some small degree, I don't think it's going to hold together as nicely as we would like it to. That doesn't mean it couldn't still hold together, but there might be some bumps in the road, some hiccups along the way. So that's kind of the way I'm feeling. You may or may not feel the same, but I think the general optimism that is there right now is going to be enough to kind of get us across this finish line. It's going to be enough to kind of see that all-time high broken through to where this maybe becomes the new level of support as we start, pushing higher. And next time we come down and test, maybe we test what was this level of resistance on the S&P around 6150. I don't know what the exact number is, but approximately 6150. So we'll see. Today finished at, let's see, the close was 6141. I think the all-time high close, I'm going to get it because I can pull it up here really quickly. The all-time high close, I believe, was back here on February 19th, and we had a close of 6144. So we actually, did we touch that today? The high got a little bit above that, and then closed just a tiny bit below that. The highest it got back on the 19th of February was 6147. So awfully, awfully close. I mean, we're literally 6 points off of of reaching a high, and maybe it passed that a little bit during the day today, but couldn't close above there. So awfully close. I think even if it's a relatively flat day, I think it will be flat to slightly bullish and push us over. And the one thing that we've got to keep an eye on, or there's a couple things to keep an eye on. One of those is going to be the PCE report tomorrow. People oftentimes say this is the Fed's preferred measurement for inflation. I don't know if that's true or not. The CPI gets looked at very closely. The PPI gets looked at very closely. There is a little bit of an expectation that year over year could go up a little bit. I know this is probably really small on your screen, but this is saying that the prior month was 2.1. The estimate for tomorrow's reading is going to be 2.3, and the core was 2.5 last time it came in. This is the year over year number, and the expectation is it'll be 2.6. PCE, or RSI, or I'm getting all mixed up. CPI and PPI both came in slightly better than expected when we had those reports last week, and I think there's a good chance that this comes in a little better than expected. The month over month is expected to come down considerably. Even if there's a miss on these numbers, even if let's say the expectation is 2.6, let's say hypothetically core comes in at 2.7. The expectation for PCE, the full index year over year without taking out for the core, the expectation is 2.3. Let's say it comes in at 2.4. I don't know that will be enough to really shake things and cause a massive sell-off. I think what's more likely to cause the markets to be anything other than bullish enough to kind of get us over that line, I think it'll be on the political front. I think you'll have to get some kind of negative news on the political front. Right now, there's so much going on. Like I already mentioned, the situation in the Middle East with Iran and Israel, and now with Gaza and Israel. They're talking a ceasefire for Gaza and Israel now. All good news. Again, if it all holds together, and I sincerely hope that it does, I'm praying for it to really hold together and be a lasting, peaceful thing. You've got the president or the White House. Somebody put out today that there was a sort of a deal in principle, not necessarily a signed deal, but an agreement, a verbal agreement had been reached with a trade deal with China. If we get details on that tomorrow, and it is a scheduled deal, maybe not signed, but everything has been agreed to and it's going to be signed, that could be a big thing. And then sort of almost hovering over all of this, almost like a big rain cloud hovering over all of this stuff. You've got the situation with the big beautiful bill, and you've got the legislation that Trump wants so desperately to get through the Senate. There was news off and on throughout the day. There were whispers in the news about the Senate was having a hard time getting it through. There's some holdouts. There's not going to be a single Democrat in the Senate, and there's not going to be a single Democrat in the House that is going to vote for this legislation in this big, beautiful bill. It's going to require 100% Republicans. And there's not a gigantic majority in either chamber. I believe there's a 3-vote majority in the Senate. There's something like a 3-vote majority in the House of Representatives. The Senate could have 3 defectors, and J.D. Vance could come in and be a tie-break vote. You never know what Mitch McConnell is going to do. He hates Donald Trump. He loathes Donald Trump. I don't think he even makes a secret of it anymore. It's possible that he would vote against it. And you've got wild cards like Murkowski and Collins. And then you've got Rand Paul, who says he's not going to vote for it unless they'll do the debt ceiling as a separate bill. He's made that relatively clear. Don't know whether or not President Trump can persuade him otherwise. So you've got a situation where if you had the 3 people, the 3 individuals that are kind of you don't expect them to vote against it, but you can't be surprised if they vote against it. McConnell, Murkowski, and Collins. Well, McConnell was a conservative for a long time. Maybe he is still a conservative, but he is not a MAGA guy. He is not a Trump fan. And so you just don't know if his blinding hatred for Donald Trump will overshadow him doing what he thinks is right for the country. Collins and Murkowski, I just don't know. I on this particular piece of legislation, I just don't know if either one of them can be counted on. They oftentimes find things that are wrong with whatever Donald Trump does. I don't know that they have quite the Trump derangement syndrome that McConnell seems to have caught in his old age, but you can't count on them. They're not reliable conservative votes. They're rhinos. But Rand Paul throws a real wrench in the mix, because if you lose those other three and then you can't get Rand Paul to vote for it, then you can't get it passed. And I believe that's probably what they're fighting about right now. They're trying to figure out, can they get one of those other three to be on board so that Rand Paul can do his little dog and pony show? And that's what it is. Rand Paul, I do not dislike Rand Paul in any way. In fact, I've never met the guy. I kind of like him. I generally agree with him. I don't even disagree with what he wants to do on principle, but it comes down to, for me, it comes down simply to, don't pass by good for the pursuit of perfection. And for Rand Paul to say, I'm not going to budge, I'm going to sink this bill if I don't get what I want in it. He can showcase that and put on the window dressing and say, I owe it to my constituents. No, I think that's BS. I think that's grandstanding. I think he thinks too highly of himself. And again, I say this kind of a little bit tongue in cheek. I don't dislike the individual, but it's political grandstanding. If he cared about what his constituents want, he would look at the bill in totality and say, I'm going to have to swallow hard and just kind of suck it up and take this one. And, I'll get a win somewhere else down the road. This isn't exactly what I want, but I can't sink the whole thing for my political posturing. You're going to have some more of that going on in the House of Representatives. If the Senate manages to get it through, it does not sound like it's going to have the SALT deduction that some Republican congressmen and congresswomen in blue states with horrific state and property taxes. They get the SALT tax deduction is a big deduction they get for having to pay such ridiculous state taxes. But they seem to just be willing to overlook the fact that the rest of the country who doesn't have that going on in their state, it has to pay the price for them to get that little windfall. It's a tough one. I get why some of these politicians feel they need to make a stand on that, but they've got to. I think they've got to look at the bigger picture. I think every now and then you've got to say, here's some goodies that people in my district might want, but here is what's best for the country, and it may have to leave out some of those goodies that my constituents want. And yeah, that might make it harder for me the next time I'm up for re-election. But I think sometimes you have to suck it up and do what's good for the greater number of people. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. That's a lot more than 2 cents. That's probably $2 or $3 worth of input on it. That's the thing that I am really watching over the next few trading days, and specifically tomorrow, because Donald Trump would love to do a signing ceremony for this bill on July 4th. That's 1 week from tomorrow. I don't know if he's going to be able to pull that off. The House has some rules about when a bill gets there, it's almost like they have to let it percolate for it's either 48 or 72 hours before they can have a vote on it. Democrats are going to do everything they can to grandstand and delay and try and do procedural things to slow it down, if not stop it completely. They're just going to be obstructionists. They'll get away with that to a degree, but if the Senate can get something done tomorrow, then I think it gives the House time to do what they need to do to potentially have it on the president's desk for a signing on July 4th. And I think that would be a big thing for the markets. I'm off on all this political stuff because it does have a very, very direct impact on the markets. So that's what we've got going into tomorrow. Now, as far as it relates to our trades, we are in such a good spot right now. We only have open right now the Palantir trade from last year that is just seems to be on cruise control. It is accounting for more than half the profit in our portfolio this year. But even without that, we are close to 100% return, even without the Palantir trade. That is because we've got this phenomenal NVIDIA trade that it gave up a little bit towards the end of the day after having a really strong morning. We've had a few ugly trades, but we've had mostly really, really good trades. NVIDIA being the anchor trade for sure, but our Oracle trade last week was phenomenal. The Micron trade was a great one. The AMD synthetic collar from a month ago, I guess it's been a month and a half almost now, fantastic trade. We are looking really good. And all we've got left open right now is Amazon, CrowdStrike, NVIDIA, and Palantir, and they're all doing really. CrowdStrike is down a little bit, but I still believe it's in a very good spot. They had a good day today. I believe they're in a good spot to continue moving up. It won't take much more movement up for CrowdStrike to be guaranteed profitable. I mean, look at how steady. Look at how steady to the upside this thing is. It's just absolutely fantastic. There's a little dip every now and then, but that 20-day moving average is almost on a perfect slope to the upside, and that's one of the things that we really like. So CrowdStrike looks really good. Amazon has some good things going on right now. It's moved profitable for the first time since we opened that trade, and I think it's going to continue to go higher. I think Amazon's going to start making its way over the summer back up towards this all-time high of 242. I think we're going to get there soon. And then I'm not worried at all about NVIDIA or CrowdStrike continuing to make money for us. After all the adjustments we did last night for this morning's open, our collar trade portfolio is in fantastic shape. And we've only got one thing left open in our triple play portfolio. We have a trade on AMD right now, a long iron condor that is stretched a little farther out in time, goes out a couple weeks from now. It's pretty much flat. I would call it, for all intents and purposes, break even. And just all around, we're looking good. We're looking great at the percentage returns we've got so far. And we're just basically, as of tomorrow, we're kind of at the halfway point of the year. So I will be watching Discord tomorrow when the markets are open. I will be keeping an eye on what's going on. If you need to send a message or get in touch somehow or have a question, please don't hesitate doing that. I'm just not going to be able to be online for the a podcast tomorrow. That's why I'm doing this one today. So hope everybody has a great Friday. Have a great weekend. I will see you back here at the end of trading on Monday. So I'm not going to be online live doing any podcasting or any streaming until the first half of the year officially comes to a close, right around the close of the market on Monday. Until then, have a great weekend. We'll see you then.